Sometimes, the people living closest to you aren't neighbors at all, just something pretending to be. Tonight's stories are all about ordinary neighborhoods, familiar walls, places you thought were safe, until you realized someone was always watching, listening, and waiting just beyond your door. The first time I checked the footage, I saw myself standing at the door, talking to no one. For weeks, I'd been waking up at exactly 2:17 a.m. to the same sound. 3 slow, deliberate knocks at my front door. I lived alone in a small apartment complex, the kind where you could hear your neighbors sneeze through the walls. So I figured it had to be a prank, or maybe one of the college kids next door coming home drunk. The first few nights I tried to ignore it, but the knocks kept happening. Always 3, always the same rhythm. Always at 2:17 exactly. Finally, I set up a security camera facing the door, angled perfectly to catch anyone who came near it. That night, I sat awake on the couch, waiting. When the sound came again, 3 distinct knocks, sharp against the wood, I ran to the monitor. The timestamp read 2:17:04, but there was nothing on the feed. The hallway was completely empty. I replayed it over and over, checking for glitches, shadows, anything. But the door shook from contact. There was no question that someone or something had physically knocked. The next morning, I went to my neighbor, Tyler, and asked if he'd heard anything. He hadn't. But when I mentioned the time, he hesitated. "You said 2:17?" he asked softly. "My camera goes off every night then, but it shows you leaving your apartment." I laughed at first, but he pulled up the recordings. There I was, clear as day, opening my own door at 2:17, glancing down the hall, then stepping past the frame. In each clip, I walked toward his side of the hallway, right out of view. The problem was, I never remembered leaving my apartment. That night, I barricaded the door and moved my camera inside, facing it. I sat awake again, clutching a kitchen knife, waiting for the knocks. 2:17 came. The air felt heavy. Then, 3 knocks, inches from my face. I lunged at the door, yanking it open. The hallway stood empty, lights flickering slightly. I checked Tyler's footage in a panic. There I was again, frozen in front of his door, knocking 3 times. Then turning slowly toward the hallway camera, staring straight into it. The next night, I unplugged everything. I don't even try to sleep anymore, but every night since then, exactly at 2:17, I hear it again. Those 3 knocks at my door, knocks that never end. I used to think the camera pointing into my window was creepy, until I saw what it was really recording. I moved into the apartment complex last spring. It was quiet, clean, and cheap, which should have been my first red flag. My unit faced the courtyard with a big window over my bed that stayed cracked most nights. Across from me lived an older guy named Damien. Friendly enough, but a little odd. Always out on his balcony late at night, watching. One evening, I noticed a small red light blinking outside his window. I looked closer and realized it was a security camera, angled straight into my room. I froze. Every night after that, no matter when I looked out, that faint red light was on, pointing at me. I tried to ignore it, but after a few nights, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I finally decided to confront him. I knocked on his door around dusk. He opened immediately, like he was expecting me. Before I could even finish asking why he had a camera facing my bed, he said calmly, "It's for your safety." He motioned for me to come in, his tone uneasy. His living room was cluttered with monitors, at least 4 screens showing live footage from different angles around the building. "You'll want to see this," he said. He pulled up the feed from my bedroom window. It was last night's recording. I could see myself lying in bed, tossing occasionally, the faint streetlight illuminating part of the room. Then around 3:12 a.m., something moved in the dark. From the corner of the screen, a figure stepped out, tall, pale, and completely still. It stood beside my bed for over a minute, just watching me. I felt sick as I realized how close it was to me. I could see its hand slowly rise, hovering inches from my face before lowering again. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, it turned toward the window, straight into the camera, and the screen went black. I stumbled back, demanding to know if this was a joke. Damien shook his head. "That's why I set it up," he whispered. "It's been inside before, but not just your apartment." That night, I didn't sleep. I nailed the window shut, turned every light on, and tried to drown out the stillness. At exactly 3:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was a message from Damien. It just said, "It's standing behind you again." The first photo showed me asleep. The second showed me turning toward the camera. The third showed my eyes open. I was renting a small room in an old duplex during my second year of college. The building creaked, smelled faintly of dust and old paint, and my roommate upstairs worked night shifts, so most nights I was alone. It wasn't ideal, but it was cheap, and after a few weeks I got used to the silence. Until one morning in October when I found the first photo. It was slid halfway under my door, a glossy 4x6 picture of me asleep in bed. At first I laughed. I thought maybe my roommate Evan was messing with me. When I texted him, he claimed he hadn't even been home that night. Still, I brushed it off. Maybe one of my friends had gotten hold of an old photo somehow. But the next morning, there was another, different angle, same moment. My curtains were clearly drawn, meaning it had been taken from inside my room. That realization made my stomach twist. I started checking inside my closet, under the bed, even behind the bathroom mirror. Nothing. After the third night, the tension became unbearable. Another photo. This time my body slightly shifted, my hair across my face like I'd just moved. I barely slept that night, keeping the lights on, clutching a kitchen knife. But sleep got the better of me, just for a few hours. When I woke up, there were two photos. One placed by my door, one on my pillow. The one on the pillow showed me from the doorway just hours earlier, eyes half open, knife still in hand. I called the police. They searched the house from top to bottom but found no signs of forced entry, no fingerprints. The officer suggested maybe Evan was playing a cruel prank, but when he came home later that night, I could tell he was terrified too. We decided to stay in the same room that night, just to be safe. I locked my bedroom door, shoved my dresser against it, and we both tried to sleep. But around 3:30 a.m., I heard the faint sound of paper sliding across the floor. Evan heard it too. We froze. I switched on the lamp, and under the door was a single photo. It was us, sleeping in the bed together, with the dresser still pushed against the door.